Ladies and gentlemen, looks like we've got ourselves another comprehensive feedback list for Wuthering Waves, most recently after version 2.4. And boy, oh boy, while some of the suggested changes in this list, I've had a bit of a pre-watch, while some of the suggested changes in this list are pretty decent and actually pretty good for the overall experience, a lot of them, as you'll quickly come to realize, are scraping the bottom of the barrel. I would have to say that Wuthering Waves is a victim of a subsect of the community that I would like to call Gacha Karens. And Gacha Karens are essentially individuals that are really, for any game, regardless of what it is, they're looking for something to complain about. And Gacha Karens thrive, right, when it comes to Hoyoverse titles. You can complain about lack of weekly boss mats, or like, you know, randomized weekly boss mats, you know, stuff like that in Genshin. In HSR, you can complain about the power creep. In ZZZ, you can complain about pretty much anything. But in Wuthering Waves, Gacha Karens are in trouble because they've lost things to complain about. And that means that they kind of have to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find things worth constituting as major issues when they're not, or they're hardly even worth making a big deal about. So with that, we've got that list ready to go. We're gonna go with the visuals because they're actually quite good, comprehensive, and let's get right on into it. All right, so the very first issue over here is what I'm going to label as a Gacha Karen issue. Quest QTEs. This part of the main quest requires minimal player interaction to the point where QTEs automatically compete even when failed. As a result, players find themselves merely watching the character progress through this section without any input on their part. And so why don't we go ahead and take a look at what this QTE actually looks like, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Let's take a look and see if we can find out just how long this section of the story quest actually is. Don't blink, you'll miss it. I believe it's right about here. Yep, it's right about here. And you can see, right? The QTEs pop up, and then you're basically given a cutscene to go through and experience. You get to see this cool sliding action and all of that. And let's just see how difficult these QTEs are in the first place. You're literally asked to click the tether button. That is the QTE. You press your tether button or your grapple hook button, which is a baseline part of the exploration of this game. And the thing is, this QTE quite literally lasts about, let's just see here, it's about 2 minutes. It's about 120 seconds of a 1 hour 30-minute story quest. It's less than 1% of a 1 hour and 30-minute story quest. It's not that big of a deal. The only people that could possibly fail a QTE that easy are those that are literally physically handicapped, because you have to click one button and it's the same button every single time. It's the same exact button every single time. You are given about 3 to 4 seconds in slow down time of that QTE to press the button. There is no way for somebody who regularly plays games to have any chance of failing them. And so the difficulty in the first place is not high. This take that oversimplifying gameplay elements risks alienating players by assuming they are incapable of handling challenges. No, that's not what's going on here. It's simply giving a failsafe for those that are literally so bad at gaming that they can't do one of the easiest QTEs that have ever been made. And if they're at the point where you're failing, if you're failing this QTE, where the prompt shows up before the slowdown and you have an extended slowdown to still click the prompt. If you fail this QTE repeatedly, no amount of practice is going to help you. You're just not made to do content like this. It's slow-mos. It pops up beforehand. And so, by making it so that you can repeatedly fail a QTE like this, essentially what's going on is that the only people that are getting alienated are literally the most giga casual players that have ever played a game like this. Those are the only people that are going to have an issue. Nobody's going to go ahead, play this QTE, automatically fail all of them, and then be like, oh my god, Wuthering Waves made me automatically pass QTEs? Even though there's only like 3 QTEs in like 20 hours of story? This game is unplayable. I'm going to uninstall right now. On the other hand, somebody that repeatedly fails one of the easiest QTEs ever is going to be the player that probably uninstalls because of that. And so all this is doing is it's creating a safety net for some of the worst gamers in gacha gaming. And so this is the solution to the issue. And again, I think that this is like really one of the biggest not issues that have ever come out in the space. I think this is a 1,000,000%. This is a gacha Karen problem, because this is 1 hour and 30 minutes of story quest, and this is less than 2 minutes of it. The QTEs are so easy that anyone that regularly plays games should be able to pass them, and we're getting upset that somebody that's really bad at QTEs was able to pass it too. In the story, in the literal story. My final take on this is short. You can add in an auto and manual component. You want to know what 90% of people are going to do once they see this? They're going to click auto and then just let it play. Probably because QTEs are such a small, insignificant part about this game that they don't honestly fucking care about it at all. And they probably didn't know that it was on auto. 90% of people are probably just gonna click auto and then move off. What do you think someone's gonna do? Fucking see this screen and then just be like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna give my chance an opportunity to fail this and restart it all the way from the beginning. And then delay the actual parts of the story, the actual like good parts of the story that I logged on to play. Because why would you give your chance the opportunity to just fail and then go back and then erase 2 minutes of your progress on something like a QTE? It's like, oh yeah, I totally want to do this again. For nothing. It's just, nobody's going to do it. So yeah, I think Kuro just keeps this as it is. I think there's no point at all. The fact that this is the first thing on here, and guess what, guys? The first thing that you put on the list is typically the biggest issue. This is the most gacha Karen fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. So let's just keep moving on now. All right. We got the synthesis upgrade. Currently, synthesizing gold mats requires purple ones, which in turn require blue, and then blues require greens. I suggest adding a quality of life feature where if the required material is unavailable, the game can automatically generate without substituting or with the necessary amount of the next tier. Okay, so this wording is so fucking dog shit. The diagrams are literally better. And I'll just word over the diagrams. So in the current state of the game, right, to make a gold, it'll only show you the purples that you have available. And what they're suggesting is that while you're making golds, it'll automatically consume greens and blues at the same time. And so currently, the process is like this if you want to be optimal with your synthesis. So if your goal is to make a bunch of these, well, you first got to start out by making these, right? You make these ones. Then you make these ones, right? And then you make these ones. I probably don't want to make that many. But yeah, then you make these ones. So you just have to go in order. Essentially, that's 3 clicks, a bunch of sliders that I had to do. This would just let you get it all done at once, which I think is fine. However, you run into another big issue. This needs to be a toggle. This can't be done automatically. You want to know why? You want to know why this one can't be a toggle? Well, because of this, ladies and gentlemen. Because to raise characters, or at least raise their levels at low levels, guess what you need? Yeah, you need the green mats. You need the green mats. And so, you need some sort of way to toggle this in the synthesis menu. Otherwise, people are going to accidentally make too many gold mats and then not have the blues and purples required to actually level up their character skills. That needs to be something that's a little bit more controlled. And so, I'm all for saving the clicks. I'm also all for people not fucking over their inventory, you know, their actual like building of characters, especially early on. So yeah, I think it's a decent change. It just needs to be like toggled or like smoothed it out. Yeah. Or it becomes like ZZZ and you get the option to dismantle, where a gold can be turned into 3 purples and then a purple can be turned into 3 blues. Something like that. All right, so Ascension Materials. As we move into the story, more new regions are expected to be revealed. That said, players need to go or unlock the new region to get most of the new characters' Ascension mats. Okay, so yeah, for Lupa and Cartithia, you had to make sure that Septimont is available to actually level up the characters. This makes it hard for new players to level up their characters where Ascension Materials only exist within the region. Suggestion, make a small amount of Ascension mats purchasable in the shop in the early regions or given out as a reward during an event in the same patch. This gives players an option to upgrade their characters without the need to brace through the main quest. So this is actually the thing. They're talking about it being given out as an event reward. In actuality, I do believe that's what happens here. However, these rewards involve the new region. And so I feel like what they're asking is that more of these quests and more of these rewards that give out the Ascension mats, right? They don't involve actually reaching the new region. That's my take. That's probably something that would make a lot of sense. Because, yeah, for example, you get Lupa's mat for completing the last story quest in 2.4, which is like, well, at that point, right, you've already had access to the region for a long time. So I think the rewards are good. I think they're relevant. It's just they maybe shouldn't be tied to the new region events. Because once you reach the new region, you don't even need those mats anyways. Because you're in the new region and can just collect them yourself. So y'all are not gonna go to new regions. Okay, YouTube chat, can we try not being retarded for 1 second? So if I just started the game literally on the day Cartithia released, and then I pull her, how am I gonna access the new region? I would be on version 1.0. I skip to 2.0, and then I have to play all of 2.0 to 2.2, which is like, that's a pretty long amount of time. And so now you're telling me to essentially go skip some of the best story in gacha just so I can level up my new Cartithia. All that's going to incentivize people to do is skip 2.0 story, skip 2.2 story, even though they're amazing, because they feel pressured to collect the Ascension mats. When this optionality, right, of having it in more accessible events would just be better and give people the time to just play the story at their own pace and not feel the pressure to skip stuff so that they can level up their new shiny character. Yeah, that would probably make sense too. So I think this is a fine change. Yeah, having it available in the shop, or my personal pick from reading chat over here, like having boxes, right? Having some sort of box over here that gives out Ascension mats. I know I'm blocking part of it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, like, you know, these boxes over here that exist to provide mats that are annoying to collect. Yeah, just having something like this for the Ascension ones. And they give those out at the start of the patch or something like that. So yeah, that's a pretty neat one. Now let's move on. What do we got next? Trial experience. Currently, the trial sessions feel too short to properly evaluate new characters, especially those that rely on team rotations or synergies. Yeah, consider extending the duration of trial sessions or allowing them to continue indefinitely. Alternatively, you could implement a training mode that either continually respawns or despawns enemies until the player chooses to exit. So, this is the thing. We'll just prove this firsthand, because, you know, obviously, I think some people have finished the trials and they know what's going on. We'll just show you all what it looks like when you play Lupa's trial. And you'll kind of see, I'll do like a regular rotation with their teammate. I'll do like a regular rotation here. And you'll see just when the trial ends. Yeah, it's over. Yeah, it's over. So, I think that this game should take a big book out of ZZZ's playbook and just add in way more HP inflation to these enemies. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. What they should probably do is what's in the suggestion. Give people an option after that thing where when they're about to leave, maybe let them extend the trial as well and spawn in more enemies. Right? Just some sort of way to be able to test out the kits further, because, yeah, we did all of Lupa's rotation, but we didn't get to see her special intro skill. We didn't even hop onto Chang Li. She was literally sitting there doing absolutely nothing. And the trial was over after we used Brandt's Liberation, because the enemies have so little HP. So yeah, some sort of way maybe to extend it further and, you know, kind of like go from there would be nice. Yeah, I can definitely agree with this one, because this trial over here, outside of the story, is, I do believe, the only way to play the character outside of the story without pulling them. And this is not really a good place to like test out the character, test out the team rotation, do all of that. This also could be a way for Lupa owners to see how she works in her best in slot team with Brandt and Chang Li, and they don't really have an opportunity to do that. That's another realization, because what this does, if this is actually fleshed out and built out further, this means more people might want to add Brandt or Chang Li to their must-pull list in the future, or Brandt and Chang Li owners might add Lupa to their must-pull list in the present. But right now, there's just not an opportunity to actually see how the team works and feels, because there's not enough enemies. So I think it's just a win-win for every single side to make this more fleshed out, for sure. All right, now we got Event Tab Organization. The current layout of the Events tab can become cluttered, as it displays both completed and ongoing events without clear distinction. This often leads to unnecessary time spent clicking through each event to determine its completion status. Suggestion: please consider adding an option to hide or archive completed events. Alternatively, completed events could be visually grayed out, removed, or automatically moved to a separate archive. What do they have right now? I guess, yeah, I guess some sort of like check mark I think would just be fine. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all they need. They just need to put like a check mark here instead of this glowing tacit symbol. Yeah, just something so that you know you've already done all the stuff. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, just a check mark. I'm pretty sure that's all they need to do. I mean, it's a small thing. It's a small thing, but I guess it's a nice one. All right, weather control options. The newly added weather effects, such as rain and Septimont, are visually impressive enhancement that many players with capable hardware would like to experience more consistently. However, the current system relies on random weather triggers, which can make it difficult to fully enjoy these effects. Oh yeah, so I think they're just talking about adding a weather control system to the game. I mean, we already got the day and night system, and it's slightly integrated. Maybe they do like something cool where when you're changing the time, you can just, on the side here, just add the weather. Right? I'm pretty sure that's just fine. Right, guys? Yeah. Add a set of buttons over here for weather while the time button is there. I don't think that matters. And this is the thing, right? We already have the UI. We already have the time system in the game. It just turns into set time and weather. I don't think anybody cares. All right. Add a pity counter in the convene page. Okay. Yeah, go for it. I think this is the one that's in ZZZ. Yeah, I don't think anyone cares about this one. This would be fine. Neat, cool. A lot of the things that you'll find in here that are like, you know, like the really polished, the nice to haves, I think they are from ZZZ. Guys, there are a lot of things definitely worth taking from ZZZ, but there is a lot of stuff that's not worth taking. And so I'm glad that this list is kind of only taking the components that would actually benefit Wuwa. So yeah, it's a, you know, it's a minor quality in life, but I don't see any reason why not to add it. All right, remove limit in the weekly challenge. Okay, so this is one thing for sure that I don't think necessarily is required at all, because it's from the perspective of ZZZ does let you use 3, but this is the reason why ZZZ fixed their system. Because in ZZZ, you get 1 weekly boss mat every single time you run it. And essentially in ZZZ, you have 3 weekly boss mats a week. That was their original system, and it never changed. ZZZ's weekly boss mat system was 3 a week, and it could never go higher, even as you leveled up. When you're level 1 in the game, like your UL level is 1, you would get 3 a week. When you're level 60, the max cap, you get 3 a week. In Wuthering Waves, you got 3 a week, and now you get 9 at the max UL. And you can think about it this way, guys. When you get 9 a week, and at minimum, each character's banner is 21 days or 3 weeks, that is 27 weekly boss mats to build a character every single week. Or sorry, every single new patch cycle. 9 weekly boss mats a week. Guys, you just have to do simple math. How much does it cost to raise a character? Well, from levels 7 to 8 to 9 to 10, that's gonna cost you about 4. So 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Assuming everything's at level 10, right? So that's 20. And then you have 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. So you need 30 weekly boss mats to fully max out a character, but in reality, you're never gonna max out a character's intro skill, and you're probably gonna leave one of their abilities at like level 6 as well. For example, if you're maxing out things like Carlotta's normal attack and intro skill, and then complaining you don't have enough weekly boss mats, that's a personal problem. Yeah. Oh, it's 26? Oh, do the middle ones not cost anything? Oh, no, they do. Oh, no, the middle ones do. The side... Oh, shit, my bad. Oh, my bad. So that's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Oh, it is 26. Okay. Okay. We've done all the math now. So you get 27 weekly boss mats every 3 weeks. You get 27 weekly boss mats every 3 weeks. And there's 26 needed to max a character. So it is literally impossible to not max out a character every single update. Yeah, it's literally impossible because there's a new character every 3 weeks. Oh, wait, but then there are updates like version 2.5 where there's only one new limited 5-star. Like how in version 2.5, Frolova's going to be the only one. Frolova's going to be the only one. Saint forgets some people have lives. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Was asking you to do 3 weekly bosses every week, and the only reason you can't do that is because you have a life. You can't fight a boss. You can't do 3 fights a week. It's a weekly. It's not a daily. And if anything, this is asking to increase the limits, and so wouldn't that go against the idea of having a life? because this would let you fight it more times. And so wouldn't that conflict with the idea that people have a life? Because you're asking them to do more than 3 fights then. Mathematically, unless you just decide to not do your weekly bosses, it's literally not possible to not build every character. We've looked through it here. It's literally not possible. You have to be able to once you hit a certain UL. The only people that should have issues are those that are lower UL, but you get to the max reward very fast if you're just playing the game. And knowing that mathematically it's not possible to not build every character, you also got the... This is how useless this box is. I have every character with their essential abilities maxed out. I didn't use a single one of these yet because I just do all 3 of my weekly bosses. I have every character built. I have had no need to use a single one of these. It's been completely useless. It's just been sitting in my inventory, actually doing nothing. Every single character has their essential abilities maxed out. This is only a problem if you're not playing the game. This is not like ZZZ where you have negative mats. And guess what, guys? If you're maxing out only the essential abilities of each character, this is the last thing that I'll leave y'all with. I'll show you a picture of this Carlotta. If you're only maxing out the essential abilities of each character, this is how much it's going to cost. 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It's going to cost you 18 weekly boss mats if you skip things like the intro skill and the attack that they don't use. So 18 is 2 weeks. So unless you're doing dumb shit like maxing out this attack, where all I'm getting is an increased plunge scaling for my Carlotta, or a 16% increase on the motion value of my intro skill, if I decide, oh, maybe those aren't really that worth it, I do 2 weekly boss mat runs, and my character is ready to go. It's 6 total runs. 6 times 3 equals 18. It's 18 total boss mats to max out all of this. And so you only need 2 weeks for every new character. So there really is no situation where you should ever be running out unless you're essentially wasting your weekly boss mats. And even if you're wasting them, you get enough to do you get enough to get 27 every 3 weeks. So you can max it out anyways, even if you do feel like wasting. It's a literal non-issue unless you don't play the game. And if you're somebody that doesn't play the game and doesn't do your weekly stuff, and you're complaining that you don't have the resources, why don't we just open up the complaints to everything? Kuro Games, I want to max out every character, even though I only log in once a month. I want to be able to max everything out. Yes, if you don't play the game, you won't be able to level up your characters. What other system would you prefer? All right, issue with 4-star characters and weapons, and I do believe this is the last one. And so let's take a look at this. Since 2.x, there has been a noticeable decline in the release of 4-star characters and weapons, which is beginning to impact gameplay diversity and team building options. I have a bit of a mixed bag take on this one. Additionally, a number of existing 4-star weapons have suboptimal stats, and the most recent released 4-star characters possess kits that are either poorly designed or lack synergy, resulting in limited usage within the community. Please consider increasing the frequency and quality of 4-star characters and weapon releases. Well-designed 4-star options are essential for providing viable free-to-play alternatives. So this is the issue. And all I need to do is just show you all one character. I hope you're ready for this one. Yep. This character is a problem. And this character is not a problem because she's weak. This character is not a problem because she's like not good. She's a problem because she literally devalues other members of the roster. Yeah. So this is the situation, right? Is the existence of Sanhua does a couple of things. First and foremost, it makes every single new 4-star, people will compare them to Sanhua. And if they're not as good as her, they're gonna say, well, dog shit version of Sanhua. Second, if Sanhua didn't exist, these characters would sell a lot better. You see these ones over here? Yeah, these are the 2 limited basic attack buffers. And one of the big reasons why you don't pull these units is because Sanhua exists. Very similarly, why do you think there haven't been any buffers or of this damage type? There hasn't been a single heavy attack damage amp character released. And you want to know the reason for that? It's because Mortiphy is actually really fucking good too. These 2 characters were overtuned at the start of the game, and they currently are overtuned to the degree where they've seen firsthand the impact Sanhua has on sales of Rosia and sales of Lupa, and Mortefi is probably out here doing the same exact thing for heavy attack damage buffers. That's why there's so few of them out right now. And so the idea is that, yes, making another Sanhua or making another Mortefi would be awesome for players as a whole, but it's also really, really, really bad for Kuro Games. From the perspective of, they're essentially cannibalizing, or they'll continue to cannibalize the sales of their future sub-DPS characters by making 4 stars that are too strong. And so you're essentially asking them to make less money on their limited character releases by giving out stronger 4 stars. And this is the thing, guys. If we were in a situation and we were in a state of the game where endgame content was as difficult as it was in Genshin Impact, in Honkai Star Rail, in ZZZ, if it was that difficult, I'd get what you were saying, right? But right now, the TOA, WeWa, all this content is not catered around you having best in slot characters. It's not catered around you having the best in slot team. If you have the best in slot team, right? If I go into the TOA right now and I decide to play this team, right? Where I'm like, I'm fully caked up, right? I'm caked up. I got my rover, my A rover. I got Chacona. I got Cartithia. I'm ready to fucking bust right here. I'm going to clear this with so much time left over that it doesn't matter. In HSR, the alternative would be I run this team and then proceed to clear in like 4 cycles. I run this team and I clear with like 1 cycle left. In Genshin Impact, I run this team in the Abyss and I clear with like 20 seconds left. That's like the difference. You need the best in slots in those games to even have a chance. The best in slot in this game is functionally overkill, because the content is not balanced around you having the most premium units with the most premium builds. And this is the thing, right? Is that we don't really need crazier 4 stars to be able to clear content or build free-to-play teams. People are already able to build plenty of free-to-play teams that are incredibly strong with what already exists in the game, because Mortefi and Sanhua are still some of the strongest units that exist on the roster. They're still incredibly powerful. And this is the thing. When it comes to weapons, I can understand the perspective because the game has a bunch of dog shit 4 stars, but it also has a lot of good 4 stars. From the perspective of all the Concerto Energy weapons are great and awesome, and perhaps this is the most important thing, the 4-star weapons might be bad compared to the 5-star weapons, but you can still clear with the 4-star weapons that are supposedly the worst thing ever. You can still clear. The last note is this. No 4-star unit is better than a bad 4-star unit. And I think this is the prime example of it. I have currently 4 dupes of Yohu, right? On top of owning her. I can activate about 2 more nodes from here on out. That is 4 dupes of Yohu that could have been any other 4-star. It could have been a variation. It could have been another unit on the banner. It could have been a Sanhua. It could have been a Mortefi. It could have been literally anything else. But instead, I got Yohu. And you know what that means? This unit is level 20. I'm never going to use her because her kit is a pile of dog shit. She's an awful fucking unit that doesn't synergize with anything. And this unit got added to the game and has essentially, for 4 dupes, robbed me out of getting literally anything else that I could have used. And for new players, getting a Yohu on your account is like one of the worst things that can happen early on in your game. It's one of the worst fucking things that can happen, because instead of getting her, you didn't get a copy of Dan Jin. You didn't get a copy of the Sanhua. You're 1 step further away from Sanhua S6. You're 1 step further away from the Mortefi S6. This is all stuff that's happening because they're introducing characters, right? Like the Lumis, who I have S6, and these. And so Kuro's probably also very wary of the idea that, like, damn, even using 4 stars to experiment with kits is a dangerous thing as well, because it actually makes the new player experience way fucking worse. And on a similar note, that's where the whole idea of like 4-star applicators of something like Spectro or Arrow Erosion can have some issues as well. Because let's just think about it this way, guys. Right? If you already own Chacona or you already own Phoebe, how excited are you going to be for when a new 4-star applicator of Spectrofrazzle and Arrow Erosion, how happy are you to pull and get that character? Would you care at all about getting the Spectro 4-star applicator if you already have Phoebe? You'd probably be like, I'm good, bro. Would you care about getting the Arrow Erosion applicator if you already had Chacona? No, you'd probably say, I'm good, bro. And so the idea is that I can understand fundamentally, right, from the free-to-play perspective. I want to be able to get this synergy and this power without paying. Unfortunately, you're essentially asking a gacha game company, you're asking a company whose goal is to make money to do two things. You want them to A, alienate their existing spenders, because, let's just be honest here, right? If you're somebody that needs the Arrow Erosion consumer, like Cartithia, and you also have the Arrow Erosion applicator, like Chacona, you probably spent money to get both of them. And so you're asking them to alienate those players by creating a new 4-star that the spending players don't want and will never ever want and will never use. So you've just added a new 4-star that's essentially useless for the part of the player base that's spending the most. And then you're asking for them to essentially hurt the sales of their own 4-star or of their own 5-star units. I think I see a couple of people saying that this is shilling. Guys, I'm merely stating the facts about the situation. Are you gonna call it shilling for me to just be realistic about what people are asking here? I didn't even say if it was good or bad. All I said was, this is what you're asking for to happen. You're asking a company to essentially fuck over their existing spenders so that the people that aren't spending money on the game can get more stuff. If they do it, that's great, right? But I don't think they're going to do that. That's just my take. I don't think it's something that, like, fiscally would make sense for a company to do. And that's why I don't think it would probably happen. However, this is something that I think the company could do that would be a lot more efficient when it comes to this conversation. And my suggestion is just buff the older characters. Just buff the older characters that don't necessarily have a lot of use cases right now, but maybe could gain some benefits from having certain applications and stuff added to their kit. Where maybe Alto gains some Arrow Erosion, right? Or John Shin gains some as well. Maybe Yan Wu gets the new Electro debuff, right? Things like that. Because what you don't necessarily want is another character to be added to the game that can clog up the 4-star pool that other people would literally just not want. Because that would be, if you added 4-star applicators, completely new units, that would be like adding a Yohu or a Lumi for everybody that already owns Chacona and Zani. They would just see this 4-star show up on their polls and be like, wow, this is the most useless, worthless shit I've ever seen. I'm never gonna use this fucking unit. All they're doing right now is taking away from my coral income or my dupes on other units that I'd rather get instead. And that's just kind of gonna piss players off. It would just piss players off if that occurred. And it would piss off your spenders the most. But if you go ahead and you buff already existing units, right, that players would have had anyways, that they've already been getting dupes for, they're probably not going to care as much. Because, guess what, guys? Most people that own Chacona probably already have an S6 Alto. And they probably already have a copy of John Shin from losing 50-50, right? They probably wouldn't be bothered at all if those older units got buffed, because it doesn't, like, matter for some of their future plans. But if you add a completely new 4-star that does this application stuff, then guess what, guys? Great. Now I have another 6 dupes of a useless unit that I need to collect before I can start getting the coral refunds for it. And that by itself is a bit of an issue. And I feel like a lot of people don't really seem to recognize that piece of it. So you want them to copy ZZZ. Guys, are we this retarded that the idea of buffing a character is now ZZZ's property? Is this how retarded we've become? Making a character... Oh, sorry, guys. You guys remember when they added Spectral Frazzle to Rover at the start of 2.0? Oh, wait. Woo-Wah buffed a character first, dumbass. Oh, right. Woo-Wah buffed a character first. Which one came out first, guys? Ellen's buff 2 months ago or Rover's Spectral Frazzle 7 months ago? Who did it first, guys? Who did it first? I'm talking about pull characters. Oh, you didn't specify that. Oh, and Woo-Wah also buffed every single pull character. Also in 2.0. You wanna know how they did that? You remember Nightmare Echoes? Retard? You probably don't. Yeah, you remember Nightmare Echoes? You know, the ones that essentially were just buffed versions of the old echoes that released for all the new units. Oh, right, Wuwa did that as well. Except Wuwa's kits weren't so retardedly made like ZZZ's, where they had to rework the entire kit. All they had to do was apply passive bonuses to the echoes. Yeah, it turns out when reworking characters or buffing them, the less you do actually is better. Because that means there wasn't that much stuff fucked up in the first place. But when you need to rework and add entirely new abilities to a character's kit to make them functional, yeah, that means you probably fucked them up really hard at the beginning. And I'm not sure why there's necessarily so much congratulations for an entire kit being so fucked that it needed heavy rework in less than a year. What are we doing here? Why are we bragging about that? I'd rather brag about this. I'd rather brag about the fact that a dev just needs to make one new echo on a piece and then buff their entire roster of DPS units. Yeah, that would probably be better for me. Just saying. Like I said before, guys, Hoyo players are constantly just looking for an opportunity to get a dunk on this game. That's why I think some of the things in here have been so heavily pushed, especially like the whole quest QTE part, the whole weekly boss match stuff. I think that these are legitimate concerns from people that don't even play the game. I think you only complain about weekly boss match if you don't actually play the game. Straight up. It's stuff like this, where it's like ZZZ players will just like look inward, see what they have in their game and be like, well, Wuwa doesn't have this. Hey, let's dunk on it, boys. Oh, we gotta get at least one W this time around. Miasma was a miss. HP inflation was a miss. 2.0 story was a miss. Hey, let's get him here. It's like, guys, the desperation is a little bit real. And even though this entire list of feedback was spawned by desperation, I think it's got some decent components to it. But I think we've given, like, our counterpoints and our opposite suggestions that still kind of, like, go into the same light of these updates, but is a little bit more nuanced in terms of, like, you know, the pros and cons of everything. And I think that the solutions that I've come up with alongside these initial suggestions would probably be the best way to go for the player base. But yeah, let me know what you all think about these. Peace.